Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 13 of Heavy Hitters, the review series for the SUVs, trucks, 4x4s, etc. of Gran Turismo 6. And in this episode we're featuring what is probably my personal favourite SUV in the game. Not my favourite heavy hitter, that would have to go to the Dodge Ram, but my favourite SUV specifically. And the car is the 2002 Infiniti FX45 concept. Now this car is a bit of a sleeper. Now it's not exactly understated because it's quite a large vehicle. But the reason why I say it's a sleeper is because Infiniti is of course a branch of Nissan, much in the same way as Lexus branched out from Toyota and became its own brand. And in effect, the FX45 concept is kind of like a Nissan GTR in disguise. Now, technically it's not, of course, because the GTR wasn't out yet, but in many ways the characteristics that this car shares with the GTR in terms of its driving and performance are very similar. It is essentially the SUV equivalent of a GTR. So, what does it have to offer? Why is it my favourite SUV? Well, the engine is a 4.5 litre supercharged unit. It drives all four wheels, and it produces what, on the surface, doesn't sound all that impressive. 650 horsepower. Now, that's certainly not lacking, but it's nowhere near the most powerful of SUVs in the game. However, any of you who have watched my top 10 fastest SUV list video will probably remember that this one is quicker than its power would suggest, at around 216 miles per hour. Off the line as well, of course, this car can shift to 60 miles per hour in around 1.3 seconds, which makes it one of the quickest SUVs in the game and one of the quickest vehicles in the game off the line. So pretty impressive considering it doesn't have the most power. The torque figure is 598 pound-feet, which is more than enough really, considering that one of the best things about this 4x4 is its weight. Despite its size, it only weighs 1,235 kilos, which is pretty good. And as a result of that, its power-to-weight ratio per tonne isn't a record-setting, but still perfectly decent 526 horsepower, mainly due to the fact that it doesn't have as much power as some. Now the PP is, in my opinion, a surprisingly low 570, which is reasonable for an SUV, but low because it's a very good SUV. In fact, this vehicle is more than just an SUV, it's a performance car. Now, I know of course you could say that about a lot of SUVs, but this car really does bridge the gap between high performance car and SUV. It is a seriously competitive machine, not only within the SUV category, but well beyond that in multiple PP levels. Now, one of the best things about it, among many other things, is the price. It only costs 55,000 credits, which is actually quite cheap when you consider how much many of the other SUVs cost, especially of this kind of performance, and also considering that this is, of course, a concept car, and many high-performance concept cars on Gran Turismo are pretty expensive. So this car's something of a bargain. Now, it's not a premium model, fairly obviously from the look of it, so it doesn't unfortunately have an interior, but overall it's just a really, really good car, and I can't really think of any more ways of saying that. It's just a really good car. If you haven't driven the FX45 before, I would strongly suggest that you give it a go, because 55 grand isn't exactly bank-breaking amounts of money. Even fully tuned, it costs less than many supercars to build this into a track-ready monster. Now, one of the main things that allows the car to change its style, because it is a very versatile machine, is of course the differential. Because depending on how much power you send to the front or the rear, it completely changes the characteristics of the car. If you plan on using it as a drag machine, of course, you'll want fairly more to a 40-60 or 50-50 kind of split, whereas you can also use it as a track car with more of a 20-80 split, or even a drifter with, say, a 10-90 split. That is one of the other great things about this car, as I just mentioned, its versatility. It's so good at so many different things. Now, I think the looks are probably a little bit controversial. It's kind of soft looking, kind of bubbly, almost like a jacked up Volkswagen Beetle. But I quite like that. I think it's a pretty good looking SUV. And let's face it, it's not that easy to make a good looking SUV. When you have something that big and bulky, style tends to be dictated by the shape of the vehicle. And when you make the shape of the vehicle this shape, a bubble in effect, that doesn't exactly lend itself towards being interesting to look at, but I think this car actually is quite interesting to look at. Now, I'm not the biggest of Infiniti fans, I'm not really a fan of the brand in general, but of their lineup, the FX45 would have to be my favourite. It's just such a good car. As I said, not just in the SUV category, but far beyond that. So if you haven't tried it, I would strongly recommend you give it a go. And that's it for this episode. So I'll see you guys next time. And as always, thanks for watching.